Lecture 17 is Mind Material. Appropriately for the ghostly topics of this week, it was Halloween on Saturday. Since almost all of you are not here, I didn't want you to miss out on the celebrations in Cambridge, so here's a 90-second mashup. Nowhere near as good as it usually is, but despite COVID, at least some people made an effort. Relevant because Descartes' view is sometimes called the dogma of the ghost in the machine. I'll come on to that in a sec. Descartes was a 17th century French philosopher, mathematician and scientist. In mathematics, he made important connections between geometry and algebra, basically founding analytic geometry. He is often said to be the father of so-called modern philosophy because he made a decisive break with the then dominant Aristotelian tradition. His most famous work is the Meditations, published in 1642, wherein are demonstrated the existence of God and the distinction of soul from body. And this week we're going to be concentrating on the second bit, the distinction of soul from body, a view which is called dualism. Some of his other notable works include The Principles of Philosophy and The Passions of the Soul. You've come across the word Cartesian before, as in Cartesian coordinates. Cartesian means relating to the views of Descartes, so his brand of dualism is called Cartesian dualism, and this is how he expresses the view in the sixth meditation, which you read for this week. I am simply a thinking, non-extended thing, really distinct from my body. And we've come across that view before, albeit briefly. Remember Merleau-Ponty when we were talking about self-knowledge? He discusses Descartes. You might want to go back in the light of now having read Descartes and see what Merleau-Ponty says. Gilbert Ryle also came up when we were discussing self-knowledge, and this is Ryle from The Concept of Mind. This is actually an excerpt in the Norton Anthology, which wasn't assigned as reading. This is Ryle talking about Descartes and Cartesian dualism. The official doctrine, which hails chiefly from Descartes, is something like this. That is the official doctrine of dualism, the view that the mind and the body are distinct. With the doubtful exceptions of idiots and infants in arms, every human being has both a body and a mind. Some would prefer to say that every human being is both a body and a mind. His body and his mind are ordinarily harnessed together, but after the death of the body, his mind may continue to exist and function. I shall often speak of it, that is the official doctrine, with deliberate abusiveness, as the dogma of the ghost in the machine. I hope to prove, Rahel says, that it is entirely false. Cartesian dualism was definitely not popular among philosophers for most of the 20th century, but in the later part of the 20th century it began to experience something of a revival when it was realized that Descartes' arguments for his position are more powerful than had been previously realized. Here's how the meditation starts. The meditations comprise 6, and this is from the first one. Some years ago, I was struck by the large number of falsehoods that I had accepted as true in my childhood, and by the subsequently doubtful nature of the whole edifice that I had subsequently based on them. I realized that it was necessary, once in the course of my life, to demolish everything completely and start again, right from the foundations, if I wanted to establish anything at all in the sciences that was stable and likely to last. Today, I have expressly rid my mind of all worries and arranged for myself a clear stretch of free time. Descartes' method for trying to establish his system of beliefs on a secure foundation is to see if he can doubt any of his opinions. Those beliefs which he can doubt are not suitable to be the foundations of his whole edifice of opinion. Early on in the first meditation, he considers the beliefs he has that are derived from his senses about his immediate environment. At first glance, they don't seem to be susceptible to doubt. There are many beliefs about which doubt is impossible. For example, that I'm here, sitting by the fire, wearing a winter dressing gown, holding this piece of paper in my hands, and so on. A brilliant piece of reasoning, Descartes replies to himself sarcastically, as if I were not a man who sleeps at night and regularly has all the same experiences while asleep as madmen do when awake. Indeed, sometimes even more improbable ones. How often, asleep at night, am I convinced of just such familiar events, that I am here in my dressing gown, sitting by the fire, when in fact I am lying undressed in bed. So it is possible for Descartes to doubt the beliefs that he acquires through the senses about his immediate environment, because he can't rule out the possibility that he is dreaming. It's worth noting that Descartes' worry about dreaming is not some culture-bound concern peculiar to the European Enlightenment, say. Here is a passage from the Zhangzi, which means Master Zheng. Excuse my pronunciation. It's a compilation of philosophical writing from the classical Chinese period, a couple of millennia before Descartes. Once Zheng Zhou dreamt he was a butterfly flitting and fluttering around, happy with himself and doing as he pleased. He didn't know he was Zheng Zhou. Suddenly he woke up, and there he was, solid and unmistakable Zheng Zhou. But he didn't know if he was Zheng Zhou who had dreamt he was a butterfly, or a butterfly dreaming he was Zheng Zhou. Between Zheng Zhou and a butterfly, there must be some distinction. After the dreaming hypothesis, Descartes goes on in the first meditation to consider something even more radical, the evil demon hypothesis. I will suppose that not God, who is supremely good and the source of truth, but rather some malicious demon of the utmost power and cunning, has employed all his energies in order to deceive me. I shall think that the sky, the air, the earth, colours, shapes, sounds, and all external things are merely the delusions of dreams which he has devised to ensnare my judgment. I shall consider myself as not having hands or eyes, or flesh, or blood, or senses, but as falsely believing that I have all these things. And that brings us to meditation 2. So serious are the doubts into which I have been thrown as a result of yesterday's meditation that I can neither put them out of my mind nor see any way of resolving them.